Hey guys, Luke here from the Wild Movement. Today we're going to talk about sleep. So we often talk about training, we talk about nutrition, but we often forget about the importance of sleep. Now, sleep, nutrition, and training, you can think of these three things as forming a tripod. So 3 legs. We need all of those legs to be working for us to get the results that we want. You can think of training as just the stimulus. So training itself actually doesn't get you the results. It only provides the stimulus that when we apply nutrition and that when we sleep well, then we get the results from that training. Just to show how important sleep is, I'm going to run through a bit of a summary of a study that was done in 2011. Now this looked at 2 different groups of people. We had one group that was sleeping 8 hours per night, and we had one group that slept only 5.5 hours per night. Now you can probably see where this is going. Who do you think got the better results in terms of body composition? Of course, the group that slept more. So the group that only slept 5.5 hours actually lost 60% more muscle than the group that slept for 8 hours. Now remember, we don't want to lose muscle. Okay, muscle is what we want to hold on to for our health, for our strength, and definitely for our body composition, for how we look and how we feel. The 5.5 hour group also lost 50% less fat. So that's a really, really big difference in terms of losing 60% more muscle and losing 50% less fat just by sleeping less. Some other studies have also shown in similar population or similar groups, so more sleep deprived group of about 5 hours versus 8 hours, also showed that hunger hormones are really, really affected when we sleep less. Ghrelin and leptin. One of them makes you, sends out hunger cravings, and one of them tells you when you're full. In one study, it showed up to about a 20% difference in both of those hormones in terms of the group that slept less had about 20% more cravings and around about 20% less of the hormone that told us that we're full. Once again, that's a really big double whammy, and you can see that the group that therefore slept less is going to be inclined to eat a lot more. Another important thing to note is with less sleep, we get our immune system gets more run down. Now, what does this mean in terms of body composition, in terms of health? Well, obviously in terms of health, as you get run down, you're going to be more prone to picking up viruses, to picking up colds. When this is the case, then we have to stop training. The person that can train the most consistent over the longest period of time is the person that gets the best results. So if you have to stop training because you get sick, okay, you're not going to be that person. You're going to shoot yourself down, and you're not going to be getting the results long term that you could be if your immunity was higher. In this day and age, okay, up to 1 in 2 people struggle with sleep, whether that's falling asleep or whether that's waking up a lot during the night and having broken sleep. Now, this can be from a whole lot of different causes. We live in a world that is, overly stimulated these days, and we've gone so far away from what our circadian rhythm should look like in terms of how we live that it's no wonder that many of us are having these problems. I've had these problems myself. I still sometimes struggle with them, but I've implemented a whole lot of strategies over the course of the last couple of years that have really, really helped me, and there's actually science behind all of it. So I'm going to run through these strategies with you now, and what I want you to think about is where you would rate from 0 to 10 on each of them. 10 being that you're absolutely nailing that and that you couldn't do it any better, and 0 that you're not doing it at all. So, number 1, I'm going to try and keep this quite brief, but so you get the point. So number 1, optimal hydration. So we want to be getting enough water throughout the day, but we don't want to be waking up and breaking our sleep at night. Okay, if we're breaking our sleep to go to the toilet, then we're really breaking up the quality of our sleep. So a good trick with that is try and get all of your water intake in 2 hours before bed. So if you know you're going to bed at 10 p.m, try and have all your water done by roughly about 8 p.m. Number 2, bat cave. We want to create a bat cave for our bedroom. So that means we want it to be super dark. Okay, turn off any electronics. So any light emitting from anything is going to disturb your melatonin production. Melatonin is your sleepy hormone that brings on sleep at night. The second part of that is we want to try and create a cooler environment. Okay, research shows that we actually sleep better when our temperature is a little bit cooler. So if you have air conditioning, use the air conditioning. 2-hour rule, number 3. So we want to turn off all electronics 2 hours before going to bed. That means phones, that means TVs, that means definitely laptops, work stuff. This is for 2 reasons mostly. Number 1, what we spoke about before, is the melatonin. Okay, if we're looking at bright lights, our body is still going to be thinking it's daylight, and we're not going to produce the same amount of melatonin that we would produce if we were in a more natural, darker environment. And secondly, when we're on those screens, okay, we get a little bit addicted to it, and it can produce some anxiety, but also just an overstimulation. Okay, we want to take away all stimulation leading up to bedtime. Circadian rhythm, number 4. So we want to try and wake up at the same time and go to bed at the same time each day as close as possible. All of our processes work on a 24-hour clock. If we change that, then that's where our energy can dip at the wrong part of the day, and so on. So try and favor waking up at the same time, even if you do happen to get to bed later or you don't sleep so well. Most of the time, you're actually better to still wake up at the same time, and therefore your sleep the next night is still going to be on the same time frame. If you sleep until 9 a.m, whereas normally you'd get up at 6, then your body isn't going to be most likely ready to go to sleep until later the following night. And therefore it starts that vicious cycle of throwing everything else off. Number 5, anxiety dump. So sleep is physiological, but it's also psychological. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that goes on with the brain in terms of letting ourselves go to sleep. So a big one for me is getting a journal, writing down everything I need to do the next day in that journal, so I declutter that mind. I normally put that journal by the bed, and then I'll take it down into the kitchen the next morning and make sure I'm really focused with those things and what I need to action straight up in the morning. Number 6, trying to expose ourselves to morning light. So circadian rhythm is just as important getting right in the morning as it is at night. So getting exposed to the sun is also letting our body know that it is daytime, and we can produce more cortisol now and decrease that melatonin production. This is really important for our energy throughout the day. Alcohol and caffeine. Okay, so alcohol has a sedative effect. Sedative effect on us. So it is going to help put us to sleep, but it actually doesn't produce good quality sleep. So it's not the type of sleep where we're actually restoring memory, our brain function, and also our body repair. Having a glass of alcohol at dinner might not affect it, but closer to bed is going to affect that quality. As to is caffeine. Caffeine has about a 6-hour half-life. So it means if you had 200 milligrams of caffeine at say 3 p.m, which is like a strong coffee at 3 p.m, you're still going to have about 100 milligrams in your system at 9 p.m. So you can see obviously that's going to affect your sleep if you still have stimulants flowing through your bloodstream. So try and have your caffeine mostly in the morning. I generally have a rule, any caffeine I have is before 12 p.m. Most of the time even earlier than that. Deep breathing, number 8. So deep breathing has been shown to help promote onset of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest nervous system. Most of the time we're living in our sympathetic nervous system because we're in our fight or flight mode. We're looking at emails that are stressful, we're responding to stress at home or with our boss or whatever. And when we're always living in that, then we're always having cortisol, which you can check out my past video of the effect of chronic cortisol. But that deep breathing helps parasympathetic, which really helps bring on a good night's sleep. So what I suggest with that, you can do anything with your deep breathing, but I like a 4, 6, 8. So breathing in for 4, holding for 6 in the belly, and breathing out for 8. Just 4 cycles of that you're gonna feel a difference straight away. So I'll often do that driving home from work if I've had a stressful night at work or whatever, if I'm a little bit amped up. Number 9, just being aware of naps. So naps can be fine as long as you keep them under 30 minutes. Once we go over 30 minutes, then we start going into deep sleep. Okay, deep sleep, you're gonna wake up feeling groggy. It's gonna have the opposite effect of what you want the nap to have. And also it's going to most likely affect your sleep the following night. A good time to nap is about 12 hours from the midpoint of your previous night's sleep. So let's say you went to bed at 10, you woke up at 6, 8 hours, so midpoint is 4 hours, which would be 2 a.m. So your lowest point of the next day, lowest energy is normally about 2 p.m. That would be the time to have a nap if you're gonna have one. So like I said before, rate yourself from 0 to 10 on each of these. If 10 being that you're doing it super awesome, 0 you're not doing it at all, and then choose 2 of those strategies to focus on. The 2 that you rated the lowest in and that you think are going to make the biggest difference. If you just do that, guys, I can guarantee your sleep is going to improve without even adding in any supplements or anything like that. Hopefully that helps, and remember that sleep forms an important part of that tripod. Okay, without sleep, you can have all the best nutrition, you can have the best training, but without good proper sleep, you're not going to be getting the body composition, the health that you're after. Guaranteed, if you just improve your sleep, your body composition can change by itself. Hopefully that makes sense. Shoot me any questions if you have any. See you soon.